At what's making the headlines around the world. Catherine Viette joins us once again and is staying on the presidential theme, really. Those primaries are dominating the American press, especially Donald Trump, or is it Trump this morning? I'm not sure.
Well, I'll go with Trump this morning. And yes, after sweeping to victory in Michigan and Mississippi, Trump's enlarging his delegate lead. He's far ahead of his nearest rivals, and his opponents are now sort of in a mad scramble to try and see what they can do to stop him. In the New York Times, the conservative columnist David Brooks writes that it's not too late, and he says, that while Cruz, who's sort of the nearest competitor, may be looking kind of good next to Trump, really don't be fooled. What you need to do, there's another way. You continue to support anti-Trump messages. You support Marco Rubio in the Florida primary and John Kasich in Ohio. And if these two both win their home state primaries, that means that Trump would need 70% of the remaining delegates to get the nomination. And that's highly unlikely, as he's only winning about 44% right now. Brooks says that the future of the Republican Party is at stake and that the options are going back to the past, Cruz, veering into an ugly future, Trump, or finding a third way. And moving on to the Wall Street Journal, it's all about math in this race for the White House. And let's go back to those delegates. There's an editorial in the Wall Street Journal that talks about the number that Trump needs to secure the nomination. That's 1,237 out of an available 2,472. And the Wall Street Journal is looking at what happens if no one reaches that magic number before the convention this summer. And it says that the candidates are already kind of claiming political theft, that it'll be political theft to choose a nominee at the convention. Everyone wants to have this wrapped up beforehand. But the paper says that's nonsense, points to a few examples where they've had to vote at the convention to secure a party nominee, and says that the rules are clear. It doesn't matter who wins the most primaries or the most endorsements. It's the delegates that count.
Okay, well, the media, meanwhile, has been defending itself over its coverage of Donald Trump.
Yes, I mean, Donald Trump generating tons of ink, all the papers. And this from the Washington Post says that it's Republicans really who should blame themselves for Trump's success and not the media reporting on it. Says that for 9 months, party leaders had refused to take him on, kind of hoping that he would either go away, fade away, giving him the stage to himself. And it adds that the coverage volume is not always a measure of success. According to LexisNexis presidential campaign tracker, looking over the past 30 days, Trump has 93% of the coverage. But if we look on the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders has had a near identical 92%, and he's certainly not the front runner in that race. However, the paper does concede that Trump has been good for ratings and readership.
Okay, let's move on to another political story of a different kind. This is the Ukrainian pilot who's on trial over in Russia over the killing of 2 journalists. Tell us more.
Yes, this is the case of Nadiya Savchenko, and her trial is due to resume later today. She's in a Russian prison, and she's currently on a hunger strike the past 6 days. She was captured at the height of the fighting between Ukrainian troops and pro-Russian separatists back in 2004, so she's been in jail for quite a while now. And she says the case against her is politically motivated. Many Western governments agree with that assessment. Now, Russia wants to see her jailed for 23 years. And the Moscow Times is reporting on rallies that were held in her support yesterday, and that many were detained, around between 5 to 30, depending, who came out to support her. Russia sort of, not most of the Russian press not really reporting on this. Ukraine Today, as well, is reporting on the rallies and detentions in Moscow. Russian police saying that they were unauthorized, and that's why they were rounded up.
Okay, and just quickly to round up, the British paper, The Sun, has a bombshell splash on its front page. Tell us more.
That's right. Apparently, the Queen backs a British exit or a Brexit from the EU. Now, this story is based on reports from 2 anonymous sources, so you can, make your own judgment as to the veracity here. But one claims to have witnessed the Queen telling the former Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg way back in 2011 that the EU was heading in the wrong direction. Buckingham Palace, of course, saying the Queen is, politically neutral, above the fray here. Nick Clegg saying he doesn't remember this conversation.
OK, thanks very much for that. Catherine Viet's talking us to the international press. Stephen